Hi, everybody. I just wanted to welcome you to another edition of Around the Net, and I'm really excited today to have some virtual online educators joining us from around the United States. And before we get going, I just wanted to give you guys a little housekeeping tips. So we actually have the Q&A app working, and we've figured it out. And I can see some question and answers. Well, not answers yet, but we'll provide some answers hopefully. So I can see your questions, and again, the way that that works is you have to watch this hangout on the event page, and then you will notice a Q&A logo. If you click on that, there's a little window that will open up to the right, and you'll be able to see the questions that other people have asked, and when it comes time to answer those, I'll be able to select those and say, hey, we're answering those now. And when this gets archived on YouTube, somebody would be able to go and pull those up and then say, oh, I just want to see the answer to this question. They'll be able to click on that, and it'll take you magically right to the spot where I marked, like, hey, we're answering that question now. So pretty cool. We also have the applause app enabled. That doesn't mean we'll be able to hear you when you hit the thumbs up or thumbs down, but certainly use that because it's really neat to see what people are finding interesting and useful. So if you use a thumbs up, it'll actually, you'll hear yay, you'll hear a little applause, and then later we'll see the analytics in the video, and anybody that comes to this, you'll see the high points where people had given the thumbs up. We haven't got any thumbs down yet, but that's there too. But let's try to be up and not down. So with that all being said, again, I'm delighted to have these educators with us, and as I was trying to find good examples of what I thought, if I had to set up an ideal online school, I know these two schools would be, I'd feel comfortable sending my daughter to these two schools like tomorrow. I think they are really doing some smart things, and I'm super excited for them to share a little bit about how their school is set up and a little bit about our topic, which is communication and relationships with our students virtually. So I'm just going to go in the order that I see them down there, and I'll introduce them real quick and then let them talk a little bit more about themselves. So we have DeLaina Tonks, and she's the principal of, I want to say this right because the name changed, help me out. Mountain Heights? Right. Mountain Heights Academy, right?
Yep.
Okay. Glad I didn't get that wrong. We have Jeni from North Carolina Virtual Schools, and then Michael Wiechmann from Mountain Heights Academy as well. So DeLaina, if you can just take it away and tell us a little bit more about yourself and how your school is set up.
Yeah, absolutely. Mountain Heights Academy is a public charter school. We opened in 2009, and we serve full-time and part-time students. We have full-time teachers, and we made that decision very strategically. And what their time looks like is very important in facilitating communication and relationships with the students. And I'll let Michael talk a little bit more about that. We really wanted to focus on having our teachers be available to the students. We want to make sure that the teachers have the time to focus on being empathic and connected to make sure that they know the students and their situations, and that they have the time to be able to work with them and give them what they need when they need it. And so we go through a ridiculous hiring process where if I get 100 different resumes that come across my desk, I will ask them to build a lesson for me. We build all of our own curriculum. They have to include some tech tools and a video of themselves. I've got to be able to see how they come across on the screen, because if they're boring in person, they're even more boring in person, and nobody wants a Ferris Bueller teacher talking at them on the screen. They've got to be able to reach through that computer screen and engage the students and pull them in and connect with them through the computer screen, which is a little bit harder because with teachers we tend to feed off of the affective paralinguistic cues that we can see from the faces, and this is really hard to be talking to a computer screen and not being able to see who's out there and what reactions you're having to what I'm saying. So I'm making it up. I'm seeing 5,000 people across the world going, woo, at everything I'm saying in my head. So just pretend you're doing that. And so when I see that, I'll get maybe 30 people that start that process, 10 finish. We interview the top 2 or 3, and we end up with a really rock star faculty who can do that. They reach through that screen and make those connections with the students. And that's kind of the basis for our connection. Then we give them the time to be able to do that. They have 4 hours of office hours every single day where the students and teachers have that time to make those connections. So I just wanted to frame what that looked like at Mountain Heights Academy. We serve students all over the state of Utah, and like I said, we are a public charter school, so we can't pick and choose who comes to us. We take them all. We serve 16% special ed population, IEPs. That's not counting our 504 students, and we love every single one of them. And so, yeah, I just wanted to frame that so you knew kind of what our population looked like. We get students from all walks of life, from every corner of the state. That's what Mountain Heights Academy looks like, and what our teacher day kind of looks like as well.
Awesome, and I love the way that you illustrated. You got more animated, and you really do. I think that's something that we overlook. To come across the screen, you have to dial it up a notch or 2, or sometimes 3 notches, and I appreciate you saying that. Let's pop over to Jeni. I think you're.
Well, hello.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to. My children are still going. It's 8 o'clock, or a little after now here in North Carolina. My name is Jeni Day, and I work at North Carolina Virtual Public Schools. We are a kind of a organization in that we are not a charter school, we are not a private school. We work hand in hand with the public school system of North Carolina. And what happens is when a school has whatever situation it might be, a student who has had to go home because of a 504 IEP and be schooled from home, or perhaps they've had students sign up for students who want to take a course early, or students who are taking coursework over the summer that isn't offered. Really, we fit the niche of any place where there might not be an opportunity for a student to take the course in their face-to-face school. We come in and we bridge that gap. So those are the students. We get them from across the state, just like Ms. Tonks just said, and we get them as they are, and we love them all, just as she mentioned. So it's a great working environment, and connection of our 4 pillars of education, of instruction. And we work very, very hard. I have to say I worked in a face-to-face classroom for 14 years before I came out and started working online full-time, and I get excited at how much I can talk with students now and build a relationship with them. I communicate with them weekly, just course related. You know, I know if they have a great basketball game because they tell me those things, and there's time within our conversation, whereas in a face-to-face class, I taught biology and chemistry, and the moment the next bell rang, it was rush, 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 get this done, and, you know, get the curriculum in. And this has given me the opportunity to really dive into who each person is in my class, which I value greatly.
Awesome. Are you guys noticing she's coming in and out a little bit, or is it just me?
Just a little.
Just a little. I think it was mostly we got what you said. So we'll move on to Michael.
Sweet. Well, I am an art teacher at Mountain Heights Academy, so I get the honor to work with DeLaina, and she does such a wonderful job leading us, and I'm excited to hear what she has to say in this conference. But yeah, so I teach art, 7th through 12th grade, and this is going on. This is my 3rd year teaching online. I student taught in a bricks and mortar, but then I thought as I was like going through my master's program to like, I saw this job posting, I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. And then when I got the job, I'm like, okay, time to write some curriculum. And how do you teach art online? So basically, I'll just like, I was like, how could this work? And I just started building it and looking at some other examples of what other people have done. But my students have blogs, and then they also just can turn in work through the course. And I have so many wonderful students, and I take pride in my connections with them for sure.
Okay, so we are talking about relationships and communication, and I guess it's kind of a leading question, but I want to kind of chime in with you guys and check it with you guys. Would you consider that the most important thing for an online teacher, or one of them, or what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay.
I agree. I think from the relationship comes everything else.
Okay, so a foundational pillar, if you would, or something to lay the foundation on.
For sure.
For sure. Jeni, you had mentioned real briefly, I think you mentioned your school has some pillars. What are those pillars, and could you just describe those for us real quick?
Well, sure. We have kind of established these pillars throughout the years we've been open. And the first pillar is which we're talking about tonight. And we have some specifications for our teachers and students. And one of those expectations, for example, is that when a teacher has a student who is struggling, the communication will increase. We ask our teachers to contact each student synchronously as opposed to asynchronously. And that can look a lot of different ways for us. That might be that we are speaking on the phone, or that we are texting. We use an instant mem. It might be meeting in a virtual classroom. We use Blackboard Collaborate, for example. It might be meeting in a Google Hangout, or Skyping together, or using GChat. So we absolutely use any possible method to make sure that the student and the teaching to each other back and forth in a real communication. And when a student is doing well, we still expect our teachers to reach out to that student every week. But if they are struggling, then we want to see that increase. And in addition to the students, we are communicating with stakeholders at an advanced level. We communicate with the school ELA because we do work hand in hand with the public school system. Once a week for a start, every 2 weeks for all of our students. And we also communicate with the parent weekly for a struggling student, and every 2 weeks for a student who is working successfully. So I have gotten the opportunity to parents and wonderful school personnel, and we form this beautiful little support system for each of our students. And since we're all talking and communicating, we are able to really know what's going on and help them where they are and make sure that they are successful. So that's our first pillar. And then we have a pillar of teaching through what we call announcements, which are really mini lessons. We build all our own curriculum, but we use revision teams to do that. They're paid separately from the teaching part. And we have a very specific instructional design on which we've built our classes. However, each teacher every day posts what we call an announcement. And that announcement has 3 parts. It instructs, it informs, and it celebrates. So in addition to our conversations with students, we are celebrating a specific student every day in class. And that could be a celebration of a work habit, or a specific work sample, or something that they've shared with us. Like, I have a student right now who's working to fundraise money for a local children's hospital. So I'm celebrating him, and I'm posting information about his journey there as an announcement. And we do that every day. One thing that I do, for example, on Thursdays, we have 3 Degree Thursday, where I take an interest that a student has shared, and in 3 degrees or less, connect it with our curriculum. Okay, so we just find ways to really make it, personal, and communicate with our kids and let them know we're here for you, and we want to support you.
Well,
and then
can I stop you for a second?
Absolutely.
So, 3 Degree Thursday. Okay, that went by a little bit fast, but I think this is, wow. If I understand this right, so 3 Degree Thursday, you're relating your content to something relationally that you know about your students. In 3 degrees or less. What do you mean by 3 degrees or less?
Well, this is a game I've started to play this semester, so this is not a requirement of all our teachers, although we do expect them to find ways to fit that in. This is just one example. all our teachers have to celebrate the students. I have chosen, and we, in our language of evaluation, we ask them not just to celebrate, but to celebrate specifically and showcase student knowledge. So we want to see that they know the student. And when I go in and coach teachers, that's what I'm looking for. For my 3-degree example, I have a posted in my course where students can post celebrations to them. It's just called a Getting to Know You Padlet. It's what used to be called, I think, a wall wisher.
Yeah.
And so I'll take little bits. I pick a day, and I'll relate it to, I teach honors chemistry. So I had a student who said that she was short. That was the information she gave me, and I hadn't been able to celebrate a specific thing behind in her work. So I wanted to find some way to really connect with her. And so in 3 degrees, I said, such and such shared with us that she's short and that she's not kidding about that. Well, guess who else was short? Madame Curie was short, and Madame Curie discovered one of the elements on the periodic table, which we are studying this week. So in 3 statements or less, I was able to take something about the student and relate it to the course.
Okay. That's really cool.
It's fun.
Yeah, I really think like a lot of us know we got to get to know our students, and a lot of us use surveys and Google Forms and different tools to do that. But you've got to take it one step further. If you're going to collect all that information, what are you going to do with it? And thank you so much for sharing that. That's a great example of the next level, what you're going to do once you gather that information. Great.
Right, and we go beyond that in our 3rd pillar, which is feedback. And so in our feedback, we are responding to every assignment, and we have a grading policy where they have to be graded within 24 hours, not including weekends. And the feedback has to be specific, directive, and positive. And so if I know that a student's interested in basketball, coach some physical science teachers, for example, then I expect to see them work that into their feedback. If it's possible, I want to see little, not every feedback, not every time, but I want to see, because when I evaluate my teachers, I'm looking at all the feedback they've given that student since my last evaluation, because it's all there for us to see. And so I'm looking for little personal where they say things like, we're studying momentum, and I know you're a basketball player. Consider how the basketball does X, Y, and Z, because we want them to relate it to real-world events as well as the students. So that's yet another layer of communication with our students, because at that point we're communicating with them about their work, which I think as a teacher is so important. They have to know I care first, but then I want them to take that relationship and use it to learn more. And so that's where I really start to build in those connections.
All right. And I know I just want to point out that on our event page, I put a little bit.ly link to a Google Doc that we all use for planning. So you'll be able to find a s'more, if I'm saying that right, that Jeni made for us that shares a little bit more about those pillars that her school uses to kind of frame the instruction. Michael, what about you? How do you go about getting to know your students? When does it start for you?
So I think, the first thing I do is I have a Google form that asks for them to give me information, but in order for that to happen, I have them get to know me, and I kind of have some fun with it. Like, I'll create some video of me, walking out my front door, and I'll just talk about myself, kind of in a vlog style. I don't know, if you watch any of the YouTube channels and things like that, but there's a lot of cool ways for you to present your content that's a little bit more interesting than just me kind of sitting behind a presentation, I guess you would say. So I play with that a lot, and I find a lot of feedback from kids that they love that, or it's like, that was hilarious, or they'll have a good time with it. And then I feel like the questions I ask in the form too are super important. Kind of getting into their imagination, because I teach art, so I like to see where they can go with these questions, and I encourage them even before they take the form. I'm in a little video saying, hey, I'm going to read through these, have fun with them. Like, just, be personal and have a good time with it. Just kind of speak to me like I'm right there next to you. And then after I figure out the form, then I contact them. I'll shoot them a call, and then, or even in the feedback I give them, I kind of reference different things that they've mentioned in the form. I think that's super important, though, is taking what they have given you and not just consuming it, but working with it and starting the relationship there. It's kind of the start to the dialogue. And then when you are working on their feedback or any opportunity you have when you are talking with them or working with them, treating them as an individual and using that opportunity to be very vital. You never know what a kid will have going on in his life, and maybe that little bit of feedback you'll give them that one time could keep them, engaged in their class rather than with all the other distractions in their life, then they might go, and not do their work. That little bit of extra each opportunity could get them to actually buy into it and do their work, and I don't know, be excited about their work.
Yeah, I like that. That little spice of human touch that you both are sharing. That if you know your students and then you can relate your subject area somehow to something that they're interested in, it seems like a very little thing to do, but it's like a door hinge. It really is, I think, a very powerful technique. And this class is all about instructional strategies. So, is that a power? I think that's like, wow, ding, 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 ding. That's a power instructional strategy that I don't think we see a lot of teachers necessarily doing that. I know when I went to my it's been a while, I guess, but when I went to my credential program, that wasn't in the book at all. So I hope through this hangout and sharing ideas like this that we get that out there, that this is really important. And I just want to point out one thing about Michael, not to embarrass you, but I didn't know Michael, and this is the first time we've ever talked. But I saw his Google Plus URL, and it's shared in our resource doc. And I'm like, immediately, what am I going to click on? Videos, of course. So I click on Michael's video, and it's Michael, and he's like this. And I'm like, what is going on? And he's on a Wave Runner or a Sea-Doo or something like that, and he's talking, and it's his intro. One of the assignments for our course is like they have an option of making a welcome video. Michael, that's a great example of a very well personable done, exciting welcome video. I saw that video and I'm like, I'm going back to high school. I'm in art history. I'm in Michael's class. And right there, from before even class starts, this relationship starts right there. And if you got something like that, the kids come in and they're 90%, 80% won over already. So that's really powerful. Really appreciate that. I guess we need to talk about something else.
Did you say anything about that?
What was that?
I had some thoughts on that.
Yeah,
if I could
go for it. Yeah.
First of all, I'm not going to repeat anything that Jeni or Michael said. Great thoughts. Jeni, you guys are doing some great stuff at North Carolina virtual schools out there. Thumbs up to you. Michael's one of our phenomenal teachers. We call him the feedback king and the video king, and he's got some amazing videos that he's done. And really, he's not making it up. It's whatever he's doing. He's got GoPro and he's recording whatever he's doing for the students, and they love him. He was our teacher of the year, not this year, but the previous year. For that, the students love him and connect with him, and you can see why. So, a couple of thoughts. The feedback that we give to these students, it's in writing, and Jeni, you mentioned how it has to be positive. What we've discovered, yes, yes, and yes, because if it's not, they have it in perpetuity, and they can read it over and over and over. So it's critical that it's positive, because if not, it crushes their little souls, and a little piece of them dies on the inside. So please keep it positive, people. a couple of things that we've discovered. We have a CRM, a customer relations management software that we use, Highrise, and we document everything in there, all of our interactions, so the teachers can see it. I'm going to give you the funniest anecdote ever. When we had a student that was really difficult to get any information out of. I'm sure you have them. How's your week going? Fine. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, nothing. It was like pulling teeth to get information out of this student. We could not get any personal information on the surveys, nothing. Finally, we got information from the student that his chickens had won a prize at the fair. He had prize-winning chickens. And so we put that in Highrise, and all of a sudden, every teacher, oh, tell me about your prize-winning chickens. And the kid would open up and talk to us because we knew he had prize-winning chickens. And I am telling you, it's great to document that and have all the teachers have access to that information. The last point I wanted to make was having an authentic audience. Michael mentioned his blog. We have several of our teachers who have blogs that other students can see their work, their product, public can see their work and their product. We've started inviting students to join the teachers as instructional designers, and the second those students understand that their work is going to go outside the confines of maybe a throwaway, a disposable assignment, that the general public is going to be seeing it, all of a sudden they get a lot more invested in the process, and we invite them to switch over from maybe passive consumers to active producers of content. And Michael's done a great job of this, and he can maybe speak to it a little bit better than I can, but we've heard that Next Gen OER, Open Educational Resources, we've got students building right alongside with the teachers, supplementing and augmenting and enhancing our curriculum right along with the teachers as instructional designers. And we've seen that make a real difference in their learning process because they're no longer just learning information, they're actually producing it and thinking strategically about how do I want to present this content in a way that's going to make it better for the other students that come behind me to learn this. And it's been a great experiment. The students have really enjoyed it, and we've really had a good time seeing what the students can come up with when they create their own content or content for future classes to be able to see.
So that's the next gen. So open educational resources are like, okay, your different companies, sometimes teachers, they're putting it out there and anybody can access it. But by next gen, I think you're referring to like, okay, who's creating these resources, right? And it's actually the students partnering up with the teachers, and that's very like, whoa, okay, that's authentic.
One cool thing too is you can have students partner up with other students. So like they'll have them create a presentation and then they'll like pass it down the line. So I'll have my students create an art history presentation, then they'll pass it over, and then the next student will add images to it. Then the next student, they'll pass it again, then the next student will take it, because then they'll have to learn the information to add the images. The next student will add, a video element to it or something like that. So in order to basically build these awesome things, you can have them kind of engage in it. It's pretty sweet. I love it.
And then where are you guys putting that out there for, let's say, other teachers that want to see what your students are doing or use those in their classes? Where would a teacher go to find that?
We've been publishing those in the OER Commons, is the best place to find that. It's a repository of all sorts of stuff, not just our stuff, but bunches and bunches of stuff, open educational resources. We do have some of our stuff also on openhighschoolcourses.org, and I'll add both of those to the doc while somebody else is talking.
Okay. This is like fantastic. One of the things that does come up with, that's always a question, and in my I was like young in my ways of teaching. My mom was a kindergarten teacher, and she always used to tell me, hey, make sure whatever you do, you're not alone in a room ever with a student, and your door's always open. And now with virtual teaching, I mean, there's chances are you're going to be alone somewhat with the student. You're using these different tools like Skype. You're using Google Plus, maybe a Blackboard Collaborate or something like that. What policies does your school have in place, or you as a teacher have in place to, like, we got to make sure that we're protecting ourselves as well as our students, that boundary doesn't get crossed, and that if something is said, you have some sort of a recourse for it.
I'm sorry, was that for me?
You can start. Yeah, sure.
And we do extensive training with our new teachers about appropriate boundaries and what that looks like, and strategies if anything ever starts getting into inappropriate territory, to end the conversation and to come to administration immediately, and what that looks like. And we do role playing because it is a consideration, it is a concern, it is a thing. It's something that definitely needs to be addressed, and training needs to happen on it. So we do have policies in place, and we do have training around that. It's not something that we've had very many issues with. And hopefully that's because we do have a good training and a good level of awareness surrounding that. We do also have some parents who have major concerns about that, and they have the option of being right there with their students. So we do have parents who get to go to high school again, and that's their prerogative. So
I think they just want in Michael's art class.
And that too. I wanted Michael's art class. Who wouldn't, right?
At virtual, there are a few things that help to use those boundaries. We encourage our teachers, first of all, to use things like Google Voice, which allows them to use a number that is not their personal number, but still to receive calls, those kinds of techniques. Every teacher has to document every communication, whether it's with the student holder in our communication journal, and you have to write detailed notes about that communication. So when I'm evaluating it, looking at her journal, and I'm really seeing the whole thread of communication from top to bottom from day one. Our instant message program keeps transcripts. Of course, emails have transcripts. If they're using Google Voice, their texts have transcripts. So all of those tools that we're encouraging our teachers to use are all ones that scripted, and with Google Voice you can even record conversations. And so we train teachers that if you're in a conversation, we train them on what we call crucial conversations, and that falls into that category. If you're in a conversation, it becomes beyond the boundaries of what makes you comfortable for whatever reason. Perhaps it's an aggressive parent, perhaps it's a student who you're concerned about, or whatever it might be, conversation, to tell them, I'm going to begin recording, or if you're not comfortable, to end the conversation, as Ms. Tonks just said. So we do give them that kind of training, and then through our policies we try to set boundaries, and we post our office hours for our students. So for example, one of my boundaries is 8 o'clock at night, and after 8 o'clock at night they can access the peer tutoring center. We have peers on for tutoring after that time, but at that time, after that time, I don't answer the text. My phone's off because that's the end of the day for me. So see when your office hours are and how to work around those as another professional boundary.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that not only are you documenting the communication to find out about the prize chickens that you didn't know about, but it also serves a dual role here to serve as kind of a monitoring function as well. It's good for everybody. And I appreciate what you said about hey, 8 o'clock, that's my time. Everybody knows it. 8 o'clock, that's my time limit. I'm down after that. And if you don't do that, you'll have students up at 3 a.m. It'll blow your mind. And they want their feedback right there. And if you do that, you're opening that door up. And once the door is open, it's really hard to shut. And so you gotta really lay that out and be clear about that.
I always tell my teachers that be an excellent teacher, I also want you to consider your teaching sustainable. So never commit yourself to something that you cannot sustain, because you don't want a student to depend upon it and then it to go away. And you also don't want to burn out really great teachers, because they, like you said, they're up at 3 a.m. answering text. And if you work that late at night, great, but I encourage all my teachers to set aside time.
Really good. Going back to our document, I think one of you had added, take a minute to think about your educational experience and what adjectives would you use to describe your favorite teachers and why? Neat question. What do you guys say? Michael, we'll start with you. What?
Well, you know, impressively entertaining. I didn't maybe do, but like super positive, like extremely patient and calm under pressure. Those were some of the things that came to mind when I read through that.
Jeni, what are your thoughts on that?
I veer off a little. My favorite teachers were my hardest teachers. And I had a friend of mine, his dad came to school for career day one day and told us, you know, when I was in college, I would always find out who is the hardest teacher of this subject. And every semester I would try to take the hardest teacher in one of my classes. And I have to say my favorite teachers were the ones who challenged me the most. They were not always friendly, although I think they would have been just as effective had they been friendly. But I knew they were smart. I knew they knew their content. I knew that they challenged me, and I knew that when I gave them something, I was going to get feedback. And that was always really important to me as a student. I craved feedback. I hated classes where I had worked for hours on a project and they had written a letter grade at the top, and that was it. You know, I wanted to know, what do you think about, like, if I could have sat with them while they graded it, I would have been there.
That's good. DeLaina, what about you?
Yeah, same. Teachers who had high expectations, but balance that out with a high level of support so that we could meet those expectations. And at the end of the day, if they cared about their students, that's what I needed. And that seems to be the common thread that has run through our entire conversation, is to care about their students. And I think that's why we're all here. And I love Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Every teacher knows Maslow's hierarchy. You can't get a student to learn unless they first know that you care about them. So I'm going to go with that.
Okay. So going back to that feedback, we're all like in total agreement. That feedback is crucial to the learning, and it drives the learning forward. And the word that keeps on coming up is positive. But you know, you have a student and their writing isn't at the level. There's mistakes. There's things that need to be improved. What are some of your strategies that you use to, one, to keep it positive, and then two, to, you know, it's tricky to be positive and correctional at the same time. How do you do that?
It's not tricky if you're from the South. I think that's what we're trained in from birth. But we train our teachers to do what we call a sandwich. So you start with a positive comment, and then you stick all the bad stuff in the middle, although you say it in a way that shows them. That's what we say, it has to be directive. That's what we mean by directive. So, you know, Michael, great job on using the terms and all of your conclusions, the big. However, I noticed your terms didn't match the concept you were trying to portray. Here is a screencast where we have gone through some of those concepts as a concept map. Please view this screencast and then come back to this assignment and revise and resubmit for more points. Great job on what you're doing, and thank you for turning in your work. And so that's kind of what the sandwich is for us.
Okay.
We do the exact same thing, and we even call it a sandwich, but this is a Southern accent, so we'll work on that.
Sandwiches in North Carolina are better.
Disagree with that.
Okay, so I think we're coming to that time where we need to kind of wrap it up and look at the questions. And wouldn't you know it, I go to click on the questions. It was clearly working before, and I click on the Q&A logo here, and now it says this feature has been disabled. So strike three, Chris. But I do remember what a couple of those questions were, and if you guys can help me, if you looked at them, did you guys see them or no?
Disabled when I clicked on it.
Yeah.
I saw them earlier, but didn't have a chance to review them.
Yeah. Well, what do you know? Facebook was one of the questions I remember that I believe I think Teresa asked. Do you guys use Facebook at all? It seems like both of your schools are kind of adopted the philosophy I call like teach them how to swim instead of put a gate around the pool. What are your thoughts on using Facebook?
We actually we don't use Facebook. We're a Google integrated school, so we use Google+. So we don't use Facebook. We use Twitter, though.
We're a little...
Twitter.
Yeah. Love Twitter. We have a social media policy, so basically we tell our teachers you can use the social media that you choose, although we don't use YouTube because a lot of the school districts in North Carolina have blocked that, so we don't want to offer things that a lot of our students can't access at school. But in terms of Facebook or Twitter, we ask our teachers to set up a professional account that is separate from their personal account and to make sure that it's clearly identified as a teacher and with our organization. And then our instructional directors actually monitor those. So as soon as you set up your account, you have to list that in a document, and then one of the instructional directors or more, and actually our executive director usually does this as well, will go and friend you or follow you, and so there's a monitoring of those.
As example, your Twitter handle, it disappeared, but you could see your NCVPS, right?
Correct, yes. Mm-hmm.
You're using your professional Twitter handle for that.
Right.
Okay. Do you guys do something similar for that at your school, DeLaina and Michael?
Yeah, we have professional Twitter accounts. We ask all the teachers to set those up, and we have a Twitter feed on our main page, and each class has their own Twitter feed. So it's optional if the students want to set up a Twitter account, they can, but the teachers all need to have a professional Twitter feed set up or as Twitter handles so that they can tweet appropriately, and we monitor those as well.
All right. Well, if you guys have any questions, I am monitoring our Twitter feed at #AISMOOC, and I don't see any questions there right now. But if there's somebody that has a question, we'll pause for a moment and wait. But I think that was that was the ones that I can remember. So I don't know what it is. You guys ever used the Q&A app before? Yeah. No. Yeah, I don't know if I want to use it again. One of these days, though, it'll work. Which is like one of my tips. Like you gotta, like as an online teacher, wow, you've gotta like keep on like technology. You're going to have glitch after glitch after glitch after glitch, and to get it to finally work, it's usually the third, fourth, fifth time sometimes, and you got to be flexible, and you got to make sure that it doesn't totally ruin your lesson or your mindset, because it could.
You gotta have a plan B, right?
Oh yeah, plan B and plan C, but yeah. Okay, I don't see anything coming on our stream. So, man, what a great hangout this is. I'm going to go back and rewatch this myself. So I just want to end out by thank you so much. So like if our virtual teachers just implemented one or two things of the strategies that oh, I see a question coming in, but one or two strategies that was talked about here. Wow, how powerful would that be? So here's a question from Sandy. Someone on Google Plus page asked about LMSs at each of your schools. What do you use?
We use Moodle Rooms, which is the hosted version of Moodle. and we're integrated with the Genius student information system.
We used to be Blackboard. We are now switching to Moodle Rooms, and I think that we, at this point, have all of our traditional courses. We also have an OCS program, which are for students in self-contained classes. They have a hybrid where we have an online teacher working with the classroom teacher there, and we also do that in our STEM program, and I think they're still on Blackboard, but everyone else is on Moodle.
Okay. Another question. What are some of the reasons students choose the virtual school instead of a regular school?
That's a great question. I think that for us, in our unique situation, we are getting students from public schools who have very specific needs, and they need an online class to fill that need. So they're not choosing necessarily to go to a virtual school. We are sometimes during the day or even a class period after school for them.
And we're a little bit different because we are a school, a full-service school, and we have students, really their needs weren't being met wherever they were, and that looks like a variety of different things. We have a student in a boy band right now who travels around the country, so we have performers and actors. We have students who don't want to mess with the drama of the hallways of high school and junior high, so they come here and just get their stuff done and deal with drama digitally, but we don't tell them that when they sign up. We have students who they struggle with their learning. 504 IEP populations who get a lot more one-on-one interaction in a digital setting that they just can't get in a bricks and mortar. And so it's really a variety of needs, but they really fall into one of those three categories. They know what they want to be when they grow up, and they're doing it and take their laptops with them. They just want to get in, get out, or they're struggling and they need more assistance.
I think with what she's saying there, it's so cool, and bringing it back to connections. Like, it's fun because so many of the students at an online school or at a school that's maybe taking a different route, they have such unique stories, and they're there for a unique reason. And once you get kind of to that, then it opens up this whole book of wonderful, just cool stuff about these kids. And that's my favorite part, is just hearing their unique story and how they're different. And I think that's really kind of fun. It's one of the best parts of being online, for sure.
All right. Yeah, I think that's it for our questions. So thank you for taking the time out tonight and joining us. And I know everybody in our MOOC, all 5,000 or so of us, are going to really appreciate this. And then this will be shared out on YouTube to anybody that wants to see it. So I think this is a great resource, and I think we need to continue the conversation. I think looking at some of your tips, who was it that said, was it Michael? You said something about a conversation that I thought was really, really neat. Or Jeni, you said have conversations, not interviews or interrogations. A conversation is sincere, engaged, two-sided, and allows for new avenues of discourse and strengthened relationship. And as teachers, we need to be having those conversations like this and then modeling it for our students if we're going to expect our students and teachers to do it too. So thanks again, everybody. And with that, we'll sign off.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.